Saturday, June 27th, 2026, 3 days until the deadline set by domestic terrorists for foreign nationals to leave South Africa. They try after the fact to cover up their desire, saying only wanting illegal immigrants out, but in fact they're targeting all foreign nationals. The death of Mozambicans, Ghanaians, and a Malawian have proven just how evil these domestic terrorists are. The feeble attempt by the South African government to address this belatedly is distressing. Still, to this point, only one national political leader has stepped forward to refute this nonsense and ask for calm. That, of course, was Jordan Hill Lewis of the Democratic Alliance. No others have stepped forward asking for calm. There are a number of developments today we'll talk about from the private sector trying to make a difference in this. But the bottom line today, ladies and gentlemen, 3 days before the events, let's lay out a few things. South Africa's population is approximately 63 million people. 80% of that are black South Africans. Understand that black South Africans, by and large, are not part of this. This is a relatively small number of thugs, vigilantes, and lunatics who are perpetrating this nonsense. Nonetheless, that doesn't diminish the danger. It doesn't take many to cause mayhem. It doesn't take many to harm others. It doesn't take many to kill, loot, or burn. The vast majority of South African citizens are law-abiding citizens who will respect the rule of law. Unlike the political parties that run the country, they respect the rule of law, the vast majority. Do not presume if you're black, white, or brown that the black, white, or brown person adjacent to you or next to you is opposed to you just because they're black, white, or brown. This is hysteria, and it will not help you. Your fellow South Africans, by and large, feel the same way you feel. They are not part of this. That said, June 30th is rapidly approaching. Protests have been taking place all over the country. Threats by domestic terrorists have been taking place. Foreigners have been assaulted, and tens of thousands have fled the country and are fleeing the country at this hour because the Afrophobic, xenophobic, racist violence being fomented by rabble-rousers and organizations led by people like Jacinta Nkubisi Zuma, who says she just wants to help the police. Does she really? Well, making threats and deadlines for people to be out of the country is not how you help others. June 30th is approaching. If you have not already stockpiled batteries, water, rations, if you have firearms, ammunition, and other things to protect yourself, if you do not have radios, then you're not prepared. If you've not done rehearsals well in advance of today, you're not prepared. If you live in a major metropolitan area in KwaZulu-Natal or in Gauteng, you need to be vigilant, extra vigilant. If you live in rural South Africa, you must be vigilant. South Africa's countryside will be denuded of law enforcement and military over the next several days as they concentrate in urban areas and leave South Africans vulnerable, even more vulnerable than they normally are, a time where criminal syndicates likely will seek to take advantage of this. Farm attacks. Prepare for June 30th if you live in major metropolitan areas for the networks to be saturated. The tens of millions of text messages and WhatsApp videos being shared will collapse cellular services in some areas. You may find it difficult to get a message through. If you're relying on cellular telephone networks for your communications, you're making a mistake. If you haven't got a reserve of petrol on your farm or for your vehicles, if you haven't topped off, if your power banks are not charged, you are not prepared. What I have to say to all of you is this is an activity you should practice every day in South Africa. You should always be prepared for this sort of thing. South Africa sits on a tinderbox fomented by political ghouls who enrich themselves at the expense of tens of millions of others. And they've done so for decades, blaming Jan van Riebeck, apartheid, and now Donald Trump for their corruption, their failures, their racism, their bigotry, and their arrogance. The only people responsible are the people running South Africa. They're the ones responsible for this. The collapse of the cloven hoof meat industry in South Africa can be attributed to the ANC and John Steenhuisen. The corruption in the country, the lack of prosecution of criminals can be attributed to the African National Congress. The deplorable state of the military, its unreadiness, its unpreparedness, its lack of equipment, training, or resources is entirely attributable to the African National Congress. The racist legislation in the country today is entirely attributable to the African National Congress. The economic malaise, entirely attributable to the African National Congress, and to the willing partners in the private sector who've colluded with the ANC to ensure their monopolies and their oligarchies remain in place in the banking system and the retail sector. They have stunted entrepreneurialism. They have stunted growth for their own personal gain. And one day, those people will pay a price, either in this life or in the afterlife. They will pay a price for the harm they've done to tens of millions.